Their leader was the Department of Homeland Security regional director. The charge was not endangered Indian wood, but Indian wood which, according to our Justice Department, should be manufactured in India, not manufactured in the United States, even though the government of India said it's okay to export it to be manufactured in the United States. And apparently the head of Gibson Guitar has a letter from a government official saying, you know, if only you were manufacturing this overseas, you wouldn't have this problem. Furthermore, I am told that manufacturing Gibson guitars is a very high craft of well-paid people who spend a lifetime learning how to do it. What do you think about this? Okay, I mean, you want to understand why the Obama administration is totally self-destructive? Now, I've come up with the following. I'm thinking about publishing this in my newsletter one week. The following 4-part employment test. If you had 26 armed federal agents, and you could either A, use them on the border, B, use them to hunt down terrorists, C, use them to go after drug dealers, or D, use them to protect wood. You only get hired by the Obama administration if you pick D. I mean, can you, it is unbelievable. But it also reminds you the Obama administration is a direct threat to the freedom of every American because we don't have the rule of law right now. We have the rule of politicians and the rule of bureaucrats. Both the Solyndra case prove it and the Gibson guitar case prove it. And I think it's wrong. And so I think we are in a, I think next year's election is the most serious since 1860, and I think literally the future of this country is at stake. And I think re-electing this guy would be a disaster for America. Amen. So. But I also think we need your help to replace the current senator from Florida, and we need your help to replace a number of congressmen. This can't just be the presidency. So I haven't given that. Can we just toss it? Just take questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
Well,
yes, sir. Well, go ahead. You want to say something first?
I just want to say, I know a lot of you guys are new to the Eastside Tea Party. Just want to remind you that it's okay to disagree, but when you do so respectfully. All right? Thank you. No speeches, just questions.
Is it okay if we're just conservative?
Yes.
Sir, I had planned to do some research on where the authority for the executive order comes from, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So if you could give me just 2 or 3 sentences on that. But the question is, I understand the executive order is to do the things that you just said you were going to do on day one. How can it be used on immigration? How can the president establish an immigration policy using the executive order?
Well, first of all, executive orders go back to George Washington, and they are what they say they are. They're orders to execute things within the framework of the law as passed by the Congress and within the framework of appropriations that are provided by the Congress. So if you don't have the money, you can't do it, and if you don't have the law, you can't do it. And when presidents go beyond that, they're breaking the law. I mean, so you have to be careful. I can't tell you, this is one of the things we're going to look at, and certainly as we're going to put up in the near future, an executive order page for people to suggest ideas. That'll be a good one for you to submit and say what executive orders would work on immigration. I can't tell you off the top of my head right now. What I can tell you is that I do believe, and we may put, this may be one of the bills that we put in the contract, that says by January 1, 2014, we will have effective control of 100% of the border, and outlines how you do that. Now, I have to tell you that I look at the Texas-Mexico border, which is, I think, 1,200 and some miles, and there's a river for the entire distance. I mean, the Rio Grande is the border. And so normally, historically, rivers are relatively easy to defend because you can tell, for example, with infrared at night, water, person. You know, I mean, it's people really show up on rivers. And so you should be able to control the border if you're serious. I'm told we don't have enough people. What I've said is, we did some research, and found that there are over 23,000 Department of Homeland Security people in Washington, in the Washington area. What I've said is we should move half of them to Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. That would dramatically increase the number of people available to control the border. And I think if you're serious about this, you could easily have the border controlled by January 1 of 2014.
So just as a follow-up, so is it possible that you could issue an executive order that will grant amnesty to 12 or 22 million people?
No, no, you could not issue an executive order because that would require waiving the law. You couldn't do that. I want to point out, by the way, I voted for the Simpson-Mazzoli Act of 1986, which did provide for amnesty. We were told at the time it would be 300,000 people. It turned out to be 3 million. Ronald Reagan signed it, and in his diary he says, I am signing this because the two things we have to have are control of the border and an effective guest worker program with employer sanctions. We didn't get either one. But so we're talking about 25 years ago, we were trying to solve this problem. If this were World War II, we'd get control of the border in 4 months because we'd just go do it. I mean, and so I'm for a bill that waives anything that has to be waived to get it done. And I think that, there'll be, so I don't want to have a 17-year environmental impact study. I just want to get it done. Yes, sir.
Two questions. The way I understand it, only way the president can spend funds, they need to be appropriated by Congress.
Yes.
How in the world is he allowed to spend $4 trillion in a matter of 2 years?
You had a Democratic Congress. Yeah, I mean, Pelosi and Reid, the real explosion, the deficit was coming down until the election of 2006 when we voted against the Republicans because they spent too much. And we put in Pelosi and Reid, who promptly drove it up. I mean, the last 2 years of the Bush administration, you have Pelosi and Reid passing everything they can find. Oh, yeah. And so
his spending, he just wants to spend and they just condone it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was he wasn't the leader. I mean, you get Pelosi, Reid, and Obama in the same room, you can't tell who the big spender is. I mean, they would outbid each other all day.
Just one follow-up. We keep talking about this 2,000 miles of border.
Right.
I was a candidate for U.S. Senate last year. Unfortunately, Mr. Chris decided I was independent. But anyway, I don't know if I said it publicly or privately, and it was emailed. I said, why do we not take 2 miles from, or whatever mileage from Mexico, and make it a target range for military, law enforcement,
Well,
fencing, or anything?
look, look, it's rhetorically interesting. First of all, we're not in the business of randomly killing people. Second, you have huge cities, but you have huge cities that are on the border. I mean, this is why this is complicated. If you look at the size of Juarez and El Paso, for example, look at Tijuana and San Diego. I mean, this is a complicated story. But our laws are not as tight as Mexico's, by the way. Mexico's much tighter on Guatemalans, Hondurans, Salvadorians than we are on people who come from the south. So I'm not intimidated much when the Mexican government complains. Yes, sir.
It's an honor to hear you speak, sir. We're talking about the corruption in D.C. What do you feel about term limits for the State House and the Senate?
I can live with them, but I don't think they're a solution. If you look at places like California, what they've done is they've turned all the power over to the lobbyists and the bureaucrats because they're the only people who know what they're doing. What I would favor is a very simple election law that says anybody can give any amount they want of after-tax income as long as it's reported every night. And you would find that if you had a bad senator or a bad congressman, you could raise the money to beat them. A $2,500 donation limit is an incumbent protection device because they spend all day, every day for their entire term raising money, and the challenger can't raise enough money to match them. And so I would say I'd like to have elections where there's a genuinely fair playing field, and you'll beat the bad incumbents every 2 years. I mean, you won't have to wait for a term limits. Yes, sir.
First of all, I just want to make a comment. I saw both previous debates, and I appreciate your decorum and sort of like the grand old man taking care of the kids. And prior to, that's a compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
He needs old guys to rule.
Well, look, I was told by U.S. News that I was like Clinton. I was going to be the comeback kid. I said, no, I'm probably going to be. I may be the comeback grandfather, but I'm not likely to be a comeback kid at this stage. But go ahead.